Good evening. Hopefully we're going to tick a fair few sporting boxes in one go this evening. Already been given the finger in the nicest possible way here in the studio by my special guest this week, but I'm honoured to be dismissed and sent packing by a test match umpire, Sheffield's own, well actually Rotherham's own, Richard Kettleborough, who for the second time honours us with his presence, and he has a particular interest in football and a particular team in Sheffield as well. Am I right, Richard?
100% correct. When I was a young lad, my dad took me and my granddad took me to Hillsborough, and I've been a Wednesday fan ever since.
And that's where you'll be going tomorrow night?
Absolutely.
So we'll be chatting to you about that as the programme progresses. James Gregg will join us in part two to round up the entire sporting scene and more football chat, with Jonathan Buchan of BBC Radio Sheffield joining us as well. So we're going to kick the football around. We're certainly going to knock a few balls to the boundary, hopefully, in this conversation. There's so much to cover. And I must wish you a happy birthday before we say any more. For yesterday, 44.
Yeah, I'm cracking on a bit now, but it's actually nice. It's the first birthday I've had at home in 5 years. The last 5 I've been in India, so I only just recently got back from India, but it was nice to spend a bit of time with the family at home, yeah.
I was going to say, you're almost like a tax exile. You don't spend many days in this country, do you, doing your job, globe-trotting cricket umpire, test umpire, one-day internationals, etc.
Yeah, that's right. That's the situation is that we're not allowed to umpire our home country in test matches. We can do the odd one-day international. So my situation being on the ICC elite panel is that I get to umpire all the other nations, which means spending an awful lot of time away from home at the moment, yeah.
What a life.
Well, it has its moments, you know. We go to some very nice places, meet some really good people, have the chance to umpire at some of the greatest stadiums in the world.
Yeah.
But, you know, having 3 young children, one only 6 weeks, 7 weeks old now, it has its challenges as well.
Yeah, how do you, so to speak, keep all those balls in the air?
Very understanding wife.
Yeah.
Very understanding in-laws who are outstanding and help on that front, especially when I'm away from home. And that helps me concentrate on trying to do the job and trying to get my decisions right when I'm away from home.
And being able to focus 100% on that job is absolutely crucial to what you do. I mean, football referees are always in the public eye, and we'll talk about this parallels between football refereeing and cricket umpiring in terms of certainly video technology in the introduction of. But they have to concentrate for an hour and a half, 245 minutes. You're concentrating for 6 hours for several days consecutively. That's an awful lot of brain cells being put to use there and killed, I would imagine.
Absolutely. You know, it's a tough job. I would say it's probably the toughest job in cricket.
Yeah.
As you say, 6, maybe 7 hours a day. Take into consideration extreme humidity in some places, extreme heat. You have big crowds in, pitches which are conducive to spin like we've just seen in India. It can be very tough at times, yeah.
I'm sure it can. The toughest job on the field, bar none. You can get a wicket keeper. Perhaps that's the only thing that compares, in that he, over the course of a long day in the field, is having to concentrate for every ball. But other than that, it's you, isn't it? You and your colleague.
It is, and it's vitally important, certainly in this day and age where we've got the DRS and the technology, that the 2 on-field umpires and the TV umpire work as a team. It's vital these days that happens.
We'll talk about how that applies and can apply to football as we go on. First of all, a few stats, because you're chasing one or two records, aren't you, as an umpire? I worked out you've had 132 internationals so far in your career, which started at the age of 28 as an umpire, 42 tests, 68 one-day internationals and 22 T20s, and you're pulling level with a certain quite famous umpire.
Yeah, I think Yorkshire's famous umpire, Dickie Bird. I think I've only got a couple more caps to equal his number of international caps, which is obviously a great honour because Dickie was a fine umpire in his day.
He will not like that.
I can't help that. And I say I'm only 44, so I've got a few years to go yet.
Yeah, to outstrip and go on with many more records. But it's a poignant day for you tomorrow, because I know that there was a figure that was very instrumental in getting you involved in umpiring to start with, and who sadly passed away a week or 2 ago, John Hampshire, great former Yorkshire batsman, hugely respected umpire as well. So you're actually going to his funeral tomorrow, aren't you?
Yeah, Desperate to be there, to be fair. I got the news when I was in India a couple of weeks ago from his eldest son Ian, who I've known all my life. Yeah, sad news. Desperately want to be at the funeral, and the family have asked me to speak at the funeral tomorrow, so obviously it's a great honour really to speak for John, who certainly when I started umpiring was a huge influence, and really the guy back in 1999 it was now who persuaded me to take up a career in umpiring, yeah.
Okay, how did he persuade? Was it a hard job for him to persuade you? Did it take a lot of persuading?
Not really. I'd had a pretty tough time as a player at Middlesex, if I'm being honest. I didn't do myself justice down there. Right. And I was on the verge of signing for Derbyshire. And I called round at John's house, as I used to do quite regularly. And we sat, he had a bar in his house, and we sat and we talked about things. And he said, have you ever thought about umpiring? He was still on the first class panel at this stage. Yeah. He said, because the ECB are looking for younger people who have played first class cricket to get into it, and if you can do well, obviously the ICC are looking for younger people to go on to do international cricket, certainly with today's game and all the travelling and the scrutiny that comes with that.
And your background, you know, having played first class cricket there for Yorkshire, it happens commonly in cricket, well, in fact, all the time. It's a former player that becomes an umpire. Do you think that would be a good idea, more so for football? I mean, people say, oh, referees have never played the game. Actually, they have, but just at a very poor level in most cases. Yeah. Should it be going the same way as cricket and encouraging professional players, more so perhaps from the lower leagues, less rewarded, take up the whistle?
I certainly don't think it would do any harm. What we've had in cricket over the years, as you quite rightly say, is that a lot of ex-players have taken up umpiring or coaching because there wasn't the amount of money in the game that there is today or there is in football. So it made sense for guys who wanted to stay in the game to either take up umpiring or coaching. For me personally, umpiring was the way I wanted to go. That's not to say that there's not been umpires who have never played first-class cricket who have gone on to be wonderful umpires. And Nigel Plews is one that sticks in my mind, right, from England, and Steve Davis from Australia. With football, I think it can only help, you know. It gives you a head start. I know when we started umpiring, you knew a lot of the players. Obviously, there was a balance there you had to strike. But it gives you a bit of a heads up. You know what's going on the field. You can see things unfolding before your eyes. You've been in those situations as a player. And I think that can only help football.
And another thing that football's definitely going in the direction of is video review. I mean, you call it DRS. Football's going to call it the use of a VAR, a video assistant referee. First of all, before we talk about its application in football, in cricket, you've got no choice in the matter, but are you happy with the DRS system? Were you pleased when it was introduced? Yeah, well, very happy, to be honest with you, because the last thing that any official wants to do is make an error which affects the outcome of the game. That's the last thing anybody wants, and we've seen it happen over time. Ever since I started my international career, the DRS protocols have been in place, so I've sort of grown up with it in international cricket. You get used to it. Not to say that when you get a decision wrong, it still doesn't hurt inside, because that gets marked against us as umpires. But the vast majority of the time, we get the correct decision. Yeah, you must be sweaty. I mean, you talk about the concentration required during a day's play, and it's the hardest job on the field. As you're waiting for the result of an appeal, that must be very stressful. Yeah, the heart rate goes up a little bit, to be honest with you, because you're watching it on the big screen at the ground as well. You've got the third umpire in your ear, who is the communication of it all is vital these days. And you must be ecstatic, but can't show it when your decision is upheld. Oh, 100%, yeah. I mean, you must feel like punching the air and running. Yeah, you do. Of course you do. It's a huge relief, because every umpire I've ever met, every referee I've ever met, that we're all very proud people, you know. We want to get the decisions right. We want to do the job right. So when that decision comes through that you've got it correct, yeah, you are. And you know, certainly the ICC elite panel over the last 6 or 7 years, we're averaging 96, 97% correct decisions over the course of a year, which is an exceptionally high percentage of correct decisions in all countries that we visit all around the world. And of course, you've got to have faith in the technology that examines your decision making, haven't you? I mean, have you got any doubts about it, or do you think it's 100% accurate? Well, I'm actually now on the ICC Cricket Committee, which meets once, maybe twice a year. And last year we had
a review of the technology from Massachusetts in America, who did a test on all the technology, on ball tracking, on Hawkeye, on Snicko, on RTS, and it came back with a very high degree of accuracy, to be fair.
So a high degree of accuracy, not necessarily a maximum degree.
Not
of
a
accuracy.
maximum degree, but enough for the players, officials, and fans to be happy with.
Right, but some of these calls are so tight, aren't they? I mean, it's hairline stuff.
Oh, it is, yeah, and I mean, like any official, we all need a little bit of luck at times, you know, as well. I mean, I've made many correct decisions for the wrong reasons. I'll hold my hands up to that. It's happened, and it does happen.
Yeah.
But I say without sounding big-headed, we're pretty good at what we do, and we've got a very high degree of correct decisions. Yeah,
and you're obviously a big fan. Are you a fan from the spectating point of view as well? I mean, I've still got my doubts in that. To me, the moment is sacrosanct. There's an edge. Everybody goes up. He's out, says the umpire, and it's a huge moment in a game of cricket. And then suddenly, there's an appeal. We're going to have to look at it again, review it. Does that not take a... People say it adds to it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it adds to it. I watch a little bit of cricket when I'm at home, and I think it adds to the game now, you know.
Mm. And do you think that can be applied in the same way in football? We're going to get those moments, aren't we? I mean, they're trying very hard to ensure that it's quick and that the momentum of the game isn't unduly disrupted. Would you be an advocate of seeing this VAR system coming in? But it is. That's a fact. But
I think you've got to move with the times. You know, there was talk years ago about goal line technology. Goal line technology's come in now and cleared it all up. Yeah. So, and no one mentions it anymore. No. It seems to work very well.
That's a matter of fact, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, as to whether somebody's fouled somebody or not.
Absolutely.
Or whether it should be a red card or not. These are slightly subjective at times.
I think a lot of things in cricket are black and white. He either has hit it or he hasn't hit it. He's either in or he's out. In football, it's a lot more subjective and open to interpretation, which can lead to it can lead to a TV official getting himself into trouble.
It could quite easily.
Yeah.
Because former referees have been known on certain incidents not to agree. You know, even after several views of a replay.
And I think you talk to coaches, you talk to players, and what they talk about with officials is they want consistency. Yeah. Now, I think we've got a lot of consistency in cricket across the board. I think you would struggle initially in football to get that consistency because everything is open to interpretation.
It is, whereas yours is, you say, it's mostly black and white, isn't it? It's pretty well all black and white, apart from whether a guy's actually caught a ball when his hand's right on the ground and has the ball bounce first. You've just got to look at it and look at it over again.
Yeah, well, the TV pictures don't help on that, but we've actually advanced that as well in the last few years because we now have a soft signal of either out or not out, which we give to the TV umpire, and he has a heads up on that. Okay. So his remit is to find conclusive evidence to overturn that decision. A lot of the time you don't get that.
And if it's not there, you go with it.
If it's not there, you go with the on-field decision.
Well, I deal with Keith Hackett a lot. You know, Keith and I talk on behalf of youaretheref.com on a weekly, well, almost a daily basis, actually. And I know his fear about, and he's a great advocate of bringing in video assistant referees, his fear is weak refereeing, cop-outs from officials. Do you think that's a justified fear?
Having watched the Sheffield Wednesday Brentford game the other week and the penalty not given on Forestieri, I'd have to say yes. Right. But we were always taught and spoken to from our coaches, from some senior colleagues, that you've got to have the confidence to give the big decision. And by that I mean being able to give Sachin Tendulkar out in India in a Test match, being able to give Virat Kohli out being able to give Joe Root out in a Test match in England. These are big decisions which can affect the outcome of the game. And we as officials have to have that confidence to give those decisions. If you think that guy is out, you've got to give the guy out. Simple as that.
I mean, an edge can be the faintest of things. You might not be 100% sure. How sure do you to be to raise that finger there? If you're sort of 75%, instinctively you think it's out, you'll go with it, or what? The guy doesn't walk. So.
I wouldn't work on a percentage. No one walks in cricket anymore now. Forget that. That's gone out of the game a long time ago. I think the times I've got decisions wrong, or umpires get decisions wrong, is when they go against their gut feeling.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's when you get yourself into trouble. I think the vast majority of the time, if you go with your gut instinct, you're correct.
Yeah. Talking about giving people out and big wickets and everything, you have given Joe Root out actually, haven't you?
A number of times, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, a few times. There was a notable one, wasn't there, not so long ago?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get to do many home internationals now because obviously I'm not allowed to do test matches, and we've got a panel below the elite panel who tend to do the home one-day internationals. You'll have one home umpire and one overseas umpire, but a few of those guys were away last year, so I got asked if I'd do the England-Pakistan game at Trent Bridge, which happened to be a record score for England. And I mean, Joe once again, I think he got 80 odd, 90 odd, played magnificently, but he got a little feather on one behind and stood there as he would do. I mean, I don't blame anybody for doing that. Unfortunately, I had to give him out. But
being a family friend counted for nothing whatsoever. Some words were exchanged, possibly.
I'm afraid I've got a job to do. It's unfortunate.
Looks may have been exchanged, maybe even words. I'm guessing.
Maybe now and again, yeah.
Yeah, he's not saying. Joe Root is a subject for part 2 of the show. You know him well, you've known his family, you played with his father, Matt, so we'll talk to you your thoughts about the new England captain in part 2. But just, and also we'll talk about the weekend's football scene, both Blades and Owls. Jonathan Buchan joins us with James Craig. Sheffield Wednesday, huge game. I mean, they're all huge games at the moment, but this one's been built up more than most at home to Reading tomorrow. What's your feeling?
Well, first of all, I think Blackburn did us a huge favour the other night with that last-minute goal from one of our players. Yeah,
Lucas Yao. Yeah.
Yeah. Tomorrow is a huge game. There's no doubt about that. I'd like to just see us go out there, have a right go at them, and hopefully win the game. I know I've seen Reading a few times this year on TV, and they like to keep possession of the ball. They've done very well. You can't take that away from them. But I just think, get out there, get a big crowd behind us, a passionate Hillsborough Friday night, and hopefully we can win the game and then go on from there. Yeah,
there have been a couple of games like this where they have gone like that. I think Birmingham was one, and certainly Norwich was another, where those good starts set the tone and the tempo, and certainly that will be demanded in this one. I just think it's going to be a very good football match, and I think that Reading are the kind of team who allow Wednesday to play, because Reading like to. I saw them play at Huddersfield recently, and it was a great quality football match. Only the one goal in it. Very, very tight. But are you confident overall? There's always a lot of gloom and doom when Wednesday lose. There seems to be a swinging reaction. It's either, right up there or it's right down there.
Yeah, well, being away from home, I'm a season ticket holder at Hillsborough with my little lad, but obviously being away from home a lot, so I go through Al's Talk and the Sheffield Star and local media, and yeah, you're right. There's a big swing between the negative and the positive, but I just think we've got to keep things in perspective and look, where have that club been in the last 20 years compared to where we are now? We're pushing for promotion back to the Premier League. Yeah. No one's guaranteed it, no one's saying we're going to get it, but we're giving ourselves a chance. At times, I'll admit, it's been a little bit frustrating this year. I think we've maybe not maximised the potential of the players we have, but we're still in with a shout.
Absolutely. I've got to mention, by the way, a lifelong dream, ambition is going to be fulfilled shortly. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been very fortunate to be able to umpire in some of the greatest stadiums in the world over the past 8 to 9 years. And Lords, the MCG, full house at the MCG for the World Cup final. But next week, as a patron of St Luke's Hospice, I'm playing at Hillsborough. Wow. Next Saturday afternoon in the charity match to raise money for St Luke's Hospice and the Sheffield Wednesday Community Fund. Lots
of ex-players in the scene with you?
Yeah, well, I think so. I don't know any names.
Michael Vaughan? No?
I think Vaughan is away, unfortunately, but I say my dad and my granddad took me to Hillsborough when I was a real young lad. I've never had the chance to play there, so I'm really looking forward to it.
So there's still football, folks, during the international break. That's at Hillsborough, a week Saturday, yeah? 3 o'clock kick-off?
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock kick-off. Is it live on Sky then?
I wouldn't have thought so.
Early kick-off. Richard, we'll pick up with you in the second part. More cricketing topics. Joe Root, talk about, Joe Root as well as anybody, and certainly his family, the New England captain. The Owls and Blades prospects this weekend. Jonathan Buchan and James Gregg joining us. Hope you will too in about 5 minutes. We'll see you then. See you. Bye.